Hey guys, welcome back to episode 6 of TuneTalk. Today's episode, it will be part 2 of viewing Matter of Time 2 by Kevin Devine and the Goddamn Band. So first up here, we got You're My Incentive.
Your bearings are shot and your car don't work like she used to. Your friends don't call and they don't even bother with offering excuses. The TV is on, but it's always on, so it's useless. It's just the awful news and the sorry truth that we're definitely sinking. So I wouldn't hold my breath if I were you. You'll just hurt your chest and your face will turn bright blue. This is how it's gonna be. This is how it's gonna be. This is how this will be, and there's nothing that we can do. And if you start believing that, I'll stop holding my breath too. And we've been praying for change, but you ain't seen a church since the 10th.
Alright, so one thing that I've noticed that's very common with a lot of, at least in this album that we're reviewing, is it feels like the volume and how loud the instrumental is in comparison to his actual vocals. It doesn't feel really balanced, so whenever you go to a strong part like that, the vocals don't come out as strong, partly because they're quieter, and they're also a lot more higher pitched, there isn't much bass to it,
Yeah,
so it can't come across as easily as all the instruments can.
yeah. I can definitely see that, and I think part of that's just not being a super popular group or well-known singer. But yeah, I can see that.
You cry at your job, don't believe in your vote. You never celebrate your birthday. So you set up a dinner to make you feel less desperate and worthless. But your dad got drunk, so your mom threw a fit. Your man slept with the waitress. So I wouldn't waste my time if I were you. Gonna snap your spine and give away your precious youth. This is how it's gonna be. This is how it's gonna be. This is how this will be, and there's nothing that we can do. Yeah, well, if you start believing that, I'll stop wasting all of my time too. Yeah, well, if you start believing that, I'll stop holding on to my breath too. 'Cause you're my incentive, and if you go, I'm going too.
All right, so what are your thoughts on You're My Incentive?
I mean, overall, it's pretty good. I really like the instrumental.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of power behind it, which kind of helps his, like, lower power vocals.
Yeah.
And since I'm not as, like, instrumentally inclined, I was trying to listen to his vocals more, and there was definitely parts, like, whenever it needed more power, I could hear him increasing and, like, how much breath he was putting into his singing.
Yeah.
So it sounded a lot more powerful.
What I would say, just having experience and having listened to this album many times, is that this isn't his best song, like by far, not his best, but it's definitely not his worst. Like a very middle of the road, kind of average song as far as the whole album goes. So let's move on to the next song.
Alright, so next up here, we got Only Yourself.
No choice for the feeling but to fester. No chance I could cover it with my shell. No shade at the center of the center.
So far in this song and in other songs that we've seen so far, I really like his vocal runs
Mm-hmm.
to where like he'll like hold a note longer, and also just like how he can switch pitches really easily. Because he's already like sometimes higher up there in a falsetto, and then he can go like higher.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't notice that as much, but yeah, I can definitely see that.
You can sleep in my skull. It's a hole in my head, and I never feel full. The weight of the world is a nursery rhyme. We got nothing but time. Full stop at the Genesis language. No words for the bottomless depths we fell. Black bark chokes the forest of our knowledge. I can't be someone. I can't be somebody else. I'm only myself. I'm only myself. I'm only myself. I'm only myself. You're only yourself. I'm only myself. You're only yourself. I'm only myself.
What'd you think of that one?
So in my opinion, that one wasn't as good as some of the others
Mm-hmm.
because it felt like there's a lot more of just the chorus. I didn't. There weren't like the verses weren't there as much.
Yeah,
It was a lot of just him saying the only yourself part.
that's probably one of the only complaints I could possibly have about Kevin Devine and his style of music is that a lot of the lyrics are just kind of repeating it
Yeah.
over and over.
Which, like, as a smaller songwriter, it's probably more common that you won't be able to think of, like, because with how many songs he's released, it's more difficult to think of before, like, at least two verses plus a good chorus and bridge
Yeah,
for every single song.
and you can make it work with just repeating it like that. Like there's some songs like the first song, it gets repeated I think like at least a dozen times. But they still make it work because it's part of the build up.
Yeah.
Whereas this, if it's just all of the chorus, it kind of falls short a little bit. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. All right, so let's move on to the next song.
All right, so next up, we got No History.
The future is a plane through a skylight over Tribeca.
So far, I appreciate this song because, first of all, some of the other songs have kind of sounded similar. The instrumentals were they kind of sounded almost the same whenever it's like your first time through.
Yeah.
And they all start to blend together. But this one sounds a lot different, and his vocals are a little bit more on top in terms of audio. You can hear them a lot more than just the heavy instrumentals and fun.
Yeah. I will say before we get to the rest of the song, this is one of my favorites on the album.
I'm gonna trash it.
45. My brother at a conference room table. Watch the future arrange all our lives. I was sleeping in a bed for the future. First and 25 miles away. Her roommate Naughty was a relative stranger. Kev, I need you to come out here, okay, okay. The future is me drunk at my desk job. Update the database, reflect the deceased. Can't
though. I wanted to wait to pause it and let the instrumental feel get through there.
Mhm.
But so far, that's one of the best instrumentals I've heard in all the songs that we've heard so far.
Mhm.
And also, I like how he's actually putting a lot more power into his vocals in this song. I mean, in his other songs, he was still to have that power. Just again, his vocals weren't on top in terms of how loud they were in comparison to the instrumentals.
Yeah.
But this time, he kind of feels balanced with the instrumentals.
The fire trucks everywhere. The anger, the mourners. No history is dead in the air. The future is an add-on football. We are supported by the will of the world. From the floor, I felt everything tilting. Watched my brother hold his 10-month-old girl. 15 years later, we're still in the future. The blood and money didn't fix anything. We've grown accustomed to the depths of the danger. This is the future, severe and always happening. The mosque on my corner. The fire trucks everywhere. The anger, the mourners. No history is dead in the air. No history is dead in the air.
So what do you think about that one?
So far, like actually, I agree with you with that being one of the best I've heard so far. And also, one thing I know you won't really get this that much, but that last like 3 seconds, that just him holding that one line, that's very impressive vocals there.
Yeah, I can see how.
Because like as like unexperienced singers, you can't really because you have to have very good breathing ability.
Mhm.
So you have to be able to like manage how much air you take in and then how much you put out whenever you're singing each line, so you don't let out too soon. You know, so the ability to be able to switch pitches while also singing like that.
All right, so let's move on to the next song.
All right, next up here we got School. So immediately it sounds very metal
Hmm.
sounding, just straight up in that guitar playing.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a heavier song than the rest of them.
Yeah, because the rest of them a little bit more calm in the instrumentals. I mean, they obviously were the higher energy parts, but this one's very metal.
Yeah.
Won't you believe it? It's just my luck. 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 No recess. No recess.
right, so what do you think about that one?
So overall, I mean, instrumentally, that's one of the best so far with how hard hitting and metal sounding the instrumentals are. My main problem is that Kevin Devine really does not seem like a metal kind of singer.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
having that hard hitting of instrumentals then combined with his singing style, I don't think those two really blend together very well.
Yeah, it definitely stands out from the rest of his music. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes not really.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the next song once we get through this stupid ad.
Alright, so next up we got Nobel Prize.
Are you a nightmare? An oracle, unavoidable? Are you the future or a plausible worst case scenario? You visited in my sleep every night this week. You curled yourself in my lap and smiled while you spoke. Was it poison on the water? Was it blacking out the air?
So for this song, I kind of see the same problem that School had, to where it's hard hitting instrumentals and his vocals don't really match that,
Yeah.
like as well.
I wouldn't say to as high a degree as School.
Yeah, this one isn't
but I can
as bad with
definitely
it. The instrumentals aren't like straight. It didn't sound like a straight up Metallica song there in the beginning.
see that. Yeah, can definitely see that.
Finish murdering each other, finish fair. I tried to talk you down. There's a better half you're not looking at. A greater empathy. You shrugged me off, talked over me. You and your simple life. You come at a complex price, and they're busting through the gates to steal it for themselves. I say we raise and blade the border, or even take the fight to them. Yeah, let's go slaughtering the natives again. Or we could fire up the program and let the drums roll the dirt. Might even win a Nobel Peace Prize, well deserved. So every bit as ugly, it's every bit as brutal, it's every bit as dark as it's light. Paralyzed, wondering why she's dead asleep. Starving for protection, pulled in all directions, and never certain which is the lie. The elegance of being alive, or the agony. What's it poison all the water? What's it blacking out the air? Finish murdering each other, finish fair.
All right, so what do you think about Nobel Prize?
I mean, besides kind of having the same problem that School had, where it's like a lot of very heavy hitting instrumentals, I think that one was actually one of the better ones that we've heard in the second part at least.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. All right, so let's move on to the final song of the album.
So next up we got No One's Waiting Up For Me Tonight. Kind of a long title.
Kids sound like cats, and the cats sound like weather. I could listen all night. It never gets better. It's like I'm looking for a bell to ring. Tied to my bed when the war started over. Thought we'd figure things out. We only got older and horrified at everything.
You got Boston.
Distraction from words to sing. God transmissions through my higher mind up for me tonight. Transformations
All right, so what were your thoughts on that song?
Well, I would have liked to actually seriously review that, but you're over there being a giggling little boy.
Sorry, not my fault.
But like,
Anyways, what did you think genuinely? Even though it's taken us 10 minutes to listen to this 3-minute song.
okay, so like instrumentals good as always.
Yeah.
Vocals, they actually felt a lot more balanced than usual in comparison to some of the other songs we've listened to. So let's go ahead and move on to the final song of the album.
Yep. I'll preface this by saying I really like this song because given that it's 6 minutes long, it has a lot of time to explore different instrumental parts, different vocal parts, and I think it gives a good mix of all of his talents as well as the band's talents.
Yep. I mean, like the pacing of the song so far, like the amount of like how many seconds he's like singing for, like how long there's like a little bit of instruments in between there, and then obviously that guitar part that just came in before this was very good.
Yeah. I think you're gonna like the rest of the song too.
Let's see. Okay, where was that in the metal sounding songs? Because that was like the most metal I've ever heard him sound.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, you couldn't have put that in school or anything, bud?
It's never only the one thing. Always another waiting in line. It's never only the one thing. Always another creeping behind. It's never only the one thing.
I really like the sudden like change of style. Like the guitar playing is a lot faster, and then his vocals are kind of matching the speed of the guitar there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like what you were saying with the song, that being 6 minutes long, they have a lot of time to explore different vocal and instrumental parts.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see how it like changes midway through the song.
Yeah, and this is probably by far my favorite song on the album, just because of how wide of a span of styles it's able to cover in one song, and it all flows pretty coherently.
Always another waiting in line. It's never only the one thing. Always another creeping behind. It's never only the one thing. Always another waiting in line. It's never only the one thing. Always another creeping behind. It's never only the one thing. Always another waiting in line. It's never only the one thing. Always another, always another. It's getting weirder than I projected.
So that part that just passed, that kind of falls into other songs we've heard where it's very powerful instrumentals and his vocals aren't up there.
Yeah,
Which, I mean, obviously, it's going to happen with any of his songs because his vocals just aren't nearly as strong as the band can play with.
yeah, and I think part of that is because of mixing, and part of it is, probably some part of it is intentional, wanting to showcase the band a little bit more.
Yeah, because I think that's a lot of what they focus on. I mean, obviously, his singing ability to be able to have that constant high and like even falsetto in some parts is very impressive for a vocalist.
Yeah.
It's saying something in all directions. I see my daughter. She's reading the roses. She is a stranger. She doesn't know who I am. I see my father. Nose in the paper. Tapping a pencil. Working the words she's hands. I see my lover. She's singing sweetly, and she forgives me. She knows I am what I am. I see it coming. I see it's here.
What do you think of that song?
So overall, that one is probably one of the best I've heard, just because of the sort of like variety
Yeah.
in the instrumentals and vocals. Because like in the beginning, it kind of sounded a lot more different from some of the other songs. Then it kind of fell back to like what the others sounded like. And then there's also even a little bit of like what School had, with a little bit of metal vibes and some of the instrumentals there near the end.
Yeah, this is personally my favorite, mostly because, like, after listening to it a few times, you can see that it's like a transition. Like, you can see it all kind of falls apart into just like chaos at the end. There's still clear rhythm and meter to it, but it's all very loose. You know, there's so much drums, so much distorted guitars that it all just kind of blends together into this mess, and then it cuts off, you know, so fast and is left with just a few guitars. I think it's probably, I don't know, some of the best I've seen as far as just like small bands, you know, not relatively well known like Paramore or something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, they can produce better stuff, but with the limited availability that he has and the band has to work with, I think they really made use of it. So, what are your thoughts about the album as a whole?
So overall, honestly, I like the first part that we did better
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't really see a problem with any of the songs there. Obviously, besides the common thing that I've seen throughout with his vocals not being as strong, but that's part of their main style and aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
So my main problem with part two was just those two songs that had very metal vibes, and his vocals just couldn't match.
All right, so that was the second and last part of the Matter of Time 2 review. We will see you guys next time. See ya.